Shalom, today is February 17th, and we're in day 500 of the war in Israel. And there's a special edition today, 500, 500 Yemei Milchama, days of war. Lechima, fighting, or Iska, deal. And this is what Israel and the people of Israel are dealing with today in these days, specifically between continue war or continue the release of the hostages. The second stage of the hostage deal is coming in about three weeks from now, and there's a big risk that the second stage will not happen, as Netanyahu and the Israeli government may decide to continue with war. The special edition includes Ma Hesagnu, what have we achieved? Le'an anachnu holchim, where are we going to? Gilayon Meyuchad, special edition. And we see the ruins of Gaza in the background in this cartoon. Before I get to the main article, I want to point out this opinion article of Nahum Barnea. He's a senior, very well-known journalist in Israel. And he writes, Baal habayit hishtageh, the landlord has gone crazy. That's actually a saying in Hebrew. And I'm reading, Bapam harishona, for the first time, the U.S. has a president that is not only friendly towards Israel, he's not only Zionist in his own eyes, Zioni means Zionist, Hu kahanist mamash, he's an actual kahanist. Now, Kohen means priest. Kahanism is a religious Zionist ideology based on the views of Rabbi Meir Kahana. He was the founder of the Jewish Defense League and is very far right. The writer writes here that Trump's vision, Trump is inspired by the vision of the Wild West in America. Cowboys against Indians, but the Palestinians are not Indians, and the Middle East is not the old Wild West. Instead of helping Netanyahu be stable on a realistic ground, Trump is pushing Netanyahu to the edge. And I'll point out a key sentence here. It reads, Trump can change his mind. He can suddenly force Netanyahu or convince Netanyahu to agree to the second stage of the deal with the release of the hostages and to prevent Netanyahu from renewing the fighting in Gaza. Trump can also agree to sign a nuclear agreement with Iran that will be against the interests of Israel. For him, the Middle East is a sadeh nisuim, is a field of, you can say, trials, where you try out things. But for us, it's life and death, and that's all the difference. Next is a key article, the key interviewing Gadi Eisenkot, who is an Israeli politician and general. He served as a chief of staff. He also lost his son in the war, in this current war. And he sat in the war cabinet and the government. He was very, very close to the way that war was being handled from the very beginning. Eisenkot is someone who believes in the war, but he also says, this is the quote, Tzarich, davar rishon leachzir et hachatufim. We need, first thing is to return, to bring back the hostages. And then in red here, ve'az lachzor leilachem beChamas, and then to return and fight Hamas. With Trump, ze barur shenachzor, it's obvious that we'll go back and fight. So he is for completing the whole stage of releasing the hostages, first stage, second stage, releasing all control, and then going back to fighting Hamas. Next, 500 yamim lamilchama. Actually, every page here has this on the top right, 500 days to the war. Mishpachot hachatufim, the families of the hostages, shelo klulim bashalav harishon shel haiska, the families that are not included in the first stage of the deal, are anxious and are worried from the possibility that the release deals will not be complete and that their loved ones still in Gaza will not be released. אם מדינת ישראל לא מצילה אזרחים שעוברים שואה, בשביל מה היא קמה? If the government of Israel is not saving her citizens that are going through a Holocaust, they're meaning in the tunnels of Gaza, what is she good for? Here are photographs of the family members. Each one of them has a loved one that is in captivity in Gaza. Here they're holding up the posters, which are not just posters, these are actually people, their names, their ages. I'll give you, for an example, Idit and her husband, the parents of Alon Ahal, that is still in captivity. And she says, we know that Alon is in the tunnels of Gaza for 500 days already. He's not getting enough food. He is injured with a shrapnel in his eye. If he will not get care soon, he may lose his sight forever. Yael, the mother of Idan Alexander, says, people ask me, am I imagining my son Idan in captivity? And I'm actually trying not to imagine him. I'm a mother and it's hard even without imagining this. I send Idan strength, positive energy, and a hope that he knows that he's not forgotten. Down here, there's a big announcement calling for a fast day of the 500 day. Tzom is fast. Tzom Yom HaChameshmot. The 500 day fast, they're calling it. Totziu otam mehagehenom, get them out of hell. Atzeret chorum, emergency vigil at 8 p.m. in Kikar HaChatufim. Kikar HaChatufim is the hostage square in Tel Aviv. Now this is the hostage families forum that's putting this announcement out. This is because they know that the second stage of the deal there's a high chance that it will not happen because Netanyahu is being convinced by Trump to go ahead and take over Gaza before the second stage of the deal is even complete. So the families are very worried that their loved ones will not be released, those who are included in the second stage of the deal. So much ups and so much downs in their emotional walk. These hostage families, it's inconceivable. Now I want to point out that Tzom is fast, but where's prayer? Usually we know Tzom comes with tefillah. Fast comes with prayer and fasting as you do this unto the Lord. But Israel is very, very non-religious, very secular. And I'm sure I can imagine there was some sort of tensions or arguments. Do we put the word tefillah, prayer in or not? Just having it Tzom, I'm saying, well, who cares that you're hungry? Right? If it's not to the Lord, if you're not doing it unto someone that's governing everything, who is sovereign over everything, what good does it do? But they are going back to some sort of religious roots without saying that it's prayer to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's just interesting to me seeing secular people calling for fasting without relating it to the God of Israel. Next, Sasha Trupanov was one of those who were released yesterday. Sapir his girlfriend was released in the first stage. And there's a quote here from Sapir. It says, Sasha hitpalel, Sasha prayed that I will find a man that I love. And he did not imagine that he will be released alive. We know yesterday that he was released. Here in the picture, we see him putting his tefillin as a thank you to God for being released, and he can be back with Sapir, and Sapir can be reunited with him. It's just very special, with very little hope that he had. And then he's actually released back in Israel, back with Sapir, his beloved girlfriend. The next headline, this is really the main article in this newspaper, as this is the overview of the 500 days of the war in Israel. Here we see 500 days of war. It reads, Lelo hachra'ah, without defeat. This article brings to the front our 4 fronts that Israel is dealing with in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Judea and Samaria. And it says there's no defeat even after 500 days. Let's go over these fronts. In Gaza it reads, even after a year and a half of fighting, the IDF still recognize the Hamas battalions as a threat. In Lebanon, the IDF forces that are slowly evacuating from South Lebanon, they need to attack at the same time the different threats that are happening when airplanes and trucks are transferring Iranian ammunition, for instance. And the IDF is attacking that. That's part of the deal, while they're still needing to evacuate. In Syria, the IDF is keeping a low profile, some mild military activity from IDF posts that may turn to be permanent in South Syria. In Judea and Samaria, the operation that the IDF has been doing for the last few months is close to ending. It will require diverting the forces towards Gaza if the fighting in Gaza starts again. So there are 4 fronts, 500 days. This is the overview. It's quite depressing. Lelo hachra'ah, with no defeat. I want to explain a little bit of what's happening in Judea and Samaria. Why was the IDF there? It's because the terrorism was raising its head, as it says here, and the IDF is there to keep the terror down. It was coming in more organized activity of terror groups, and also the IDF is there to stifle the momentum of the prisoners that are being released from the prisons and jails as part of this deal. This is a big momentum where terror can really arise in Judea and Samaria that's hot already. So the IDF is there in operation to keep the terror's head down. We'll end with another big news in Israel, not only 500 days, but also it seems like Israel will receive some really cold weather in the weekend. It's pretty much nice spring outside, and they're saying this is the quiet before the storm. Israel is very excited that people are talking about this, as snow is not something so common in Israel. It does happen very high in the north on Mount Hermon, where it borders with Syria, but the snow may reach even the Jerusalem hills, actually where we are, on Friday and at Saturdays. It reads, the 3 next days may be deceiving with nice warmish weather, but it will be exchanged very fast to a storm in the weekend, including snow. Hatikva halevana, the white hope. That's it for today. 500 days of the war in Israel. And as we know, the history of Israel is full of wars, but specifically the modern days of Israel, since Israel was a state, 500 days is up there in the length of wars. The War of Independence was 595 days, and the War of Attrition was 3 years in the late 1960s after the 6-Day War, the War of Attrition. And here we are in the third ranked war in the length of it. 500 days of war in Israel, and it's still going on, still counting. So thank you for your prayers and for standing with us. If you like this video, please like it and share it with your friends. And we love reading your comments. Please continue. Comment where you're reading from, where you're viewing from, what are you praying about, and what do you understand of what's happening in Israel. This is Rotem Magen for All Israel News.